The night was calm, and the small town slept under a silver moon. Daniel walked alone on the narrow road that led to the forest. He often walked there when he could not sleep, and tonight his heart felt restless. The air was cool, the grass wet with dew, and the sound of crickets filled the night. He thought it would be another quiet walk, but fate had other plans. As he entered the forest, Daniel noticed a faint light between the trees. At first, he thought it was a lantern left behind by someone, but the light flickered in strange colors, blue, green, and silver. It was not like fire, and it was not like any lamp he had ever seen. His steps slowed, and curiosity pulled him closer. The deeper he went, the stronger the light became. The trees stood tall around him, but the ground ahead glowed as if the stars had fallen down. Then he saw her. A little figure sat curled in the grass, surrounded by the strange glow. It was a child, but not a human child. Her skin was pale with a faint silver shine. Her hair was soft and white, like threads of light. Her eyes were half closed, glowing faintly as if holding back a storm. She looked fragile, weak, and afraid. Daniel froze, not sure if he was dreaming. The girl lifted her head slowly and looked at him. For a moment, time stopped. Her eyes met his, and they were not the eyes of an animal or a human. They were too deep, too strange, filled with something he could not understand. Daniel felt a chill run through his spine, but he also felt pity. She looked lost, like someone who had run far away and found no place to rest. "Hello," Daniel whispered, unsure if she could hear. The girl tilted her head but did not answer. Her lips trembled, and she tried to stand but fell back to the ground. She was shaking, weak as if she had not eaten for days. Daniel hesitated, his mind filled with fear. What was she? And where did she come from? But his heart told him one thing: she needed help. Slowly, he stepped closer. The grass under her glowed brighter when he approached. He reached out a hand and she flinched back. Her eyes widened, full of fear. Daniel stopped and spoke softly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." He kept his hand open, showing he had nothing to hide. The girl looked at him again, her breathing fast and shallow. Then, with trembling fingers, she touched his hand. Her skin was cool, almost too cool, like touching water at night. Daniel felt his heart race, but he did not pull away. He gently lifted her up. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless. Her small body leaned against his chest as if she had no strength to move. Daniel could hear her faint breathing, shallow and tired. The light around them began to fade. The grass stopped glowing, and the forest fell back into darkness. It was as if the magic had hidden itself the moment he carried her. Daniel looked around, uneasy. He thought someone might appear, maybe people looking for her, or worse, things not human at all. But the forest was silent, only the whisper of wind through the trees and the beating of his own heart. He hurried back toward the road, carrying the strange child in his arms. As he walked, he wondered if he had made a mistake. Was she dangerous, or was she only a child in need? The questions burned in his mind, but then he looked at her face, resting against his shoulder. Her eyes had closed, and she seemed peaceful for the first time. She looked less like a creature and more like a lost little girl. Daniel knew he could not leave her in the forest. No matter what she was, she deserved safety, and so he made the choice to take her home. When he reached his small house at the edge of town, the clock struck midnight. He entered quietly, afraid the neighbors might see. He laid the girl on the old couch. In his living room, she stirred a little but did not wake. Daniel covered her with a blanket. For a moment, he stood there staring at her. Daniel sat down on the chair, rubbing his face. He tried to calm his mind. What had he just brought into his life? A mystery wrapped in fear and wonder. The night was long, but one thing was clear. Daniel was no longer just a man living in a small town. He had found something, or someone, that could change everything, and though he did not yet know it, danger was already on its way. The night after Daniel brought the little alien girl home, his house felt different. It was still the same small wooden house at the edge of town, but the air inside carried a weight he could not name. He sat on his old chair, staring at the girl as she slept on the couch. Her silver skin glowed faintly under the blanket, not bright enough to light the room, but enough to remind him she was not human. In the morning, Daniel woke to the sound of movement. The girl was standing near the window, her hand pressed against the glass. She looked out at the rising sun as if she had never seen it before. Her white hair caught the light, shining like threads of snow. When Daniel stepped closer, she turned quickly, eyes wide. For a moment she looked ready to run, but then she calmed, almost as if she remembered he had helped her. Daniel tried to speak gently. "Are you hungry?" The girl tilted her head, not understanding the words. Still, her small hand touched her stomach, and that was answer enough. Daniel brought her a piece of bread and a glass of water. She stared at the bread for a long moment before taking a bite. It seemed strange to her, but she ate slowly, carefully, as though tasting earth for the first time. The water she drank in one long breath as if her body had needed it desperately. Daniel felt a mix of relief and fear. If she was alive and real, then so were the questions about her. The first day passed in silence. She followed him with her eyes but said nothing. Sometimes she tried to copy his words, repeating sounds without meaning. Her voice was soft, almost musical, and each attempt carried both effort and sadness. Daniel realized she wanted to speak, but the distance between their worlds was too wide. So instead they built a small language of gestures, a hand on the chest for me, pointing at food for eat, pointing at the door for outside. It was simple, but enough to keep them connected. By the second night, strange things began to happen. Daniel was sitting with an old lamp beside him when the light flickered. At first, he thought it was the electricity, but the girl was staring at it with glowing eyes. The lamp went out, then flashed back on, brighter than before. She blinked, as if surprised by her own power. Daniel's heart raced. Was she dangerous, or only lost in abilities she could not control? That night he dreamed of stars. In the dream he floated above Earth, surrounded by endless darkness. He saw fire, broken ships, and voices calling out. When he woke, sweat covered his face. The girl was sitting on the floor near his bed, watching him with calm, steady eyes. Daniel wondered if she had placed those images in his mind, but she only looked away and curled back under the blanket. On the second day, neighbors grew curious. Mrs. Green, who lived across the street, knocked on his door. She said she had heard noises, asked if Daniel had a visitor. Daniel forced a smile and said it was nothing, just the television. The girl stayed hidden in the kitchen, but Daniel worried how long before someone noticed she was there, and what would happen if the wrong person found out. The girl's behavior grew stranger. She touched objects as though she could hear them. She pressed her fingers against walls and tilted her head like she was listening. Once, she placed her palm on Daniel's chest, and for a second he felt a pulse that was not his own, a vibration, like the beating of another heart deep inside his body. It frightened him, but it also connected them in a way words never could. The girl's behavior grew stranger. She touched objects as though she could hear them. She pressed her fingers against walls and tilted her head like she was listening. Once, she placed her palm on Daniel's chest, and for a second he felt a pulse that was not his own, a vibration, like the beating of another heart deep inside his body. It frightened him, but it also connected them in a way words never could. By the third day, Daniel began to realize something. The girl was not just hiding from someone, she was afraid of being found. Every time a car passed the house, she ran to the corner of the room, eyes wide with fear. Every time a plane crossed the sky, she covered her ears, trembling. She was running from something far bigger than Daniel had imagined. That evening, as the sun fell and shadows stretched long, Daniel sat beside her. He tried to reassure her with a soft voice, telling her she was safe here. Even though she could not understand his words, she seemed to feel his intent. Her small hand reached for his, her glowing eyes softer now. For a moment, she looked less like a creature from the stars and more like a lost child needing comfort. But the peace did not last. As Daniel prepared for bed, a sound came from the forest outside. A low hum, deep and mechanical, carried through the night. The girl froze, every muscle in her body tense. Her eyes glowed brighter, filled with terror. Daniel went to the window but saw nothing in the dark. When he turned back, the girl was whispering something for the first time, not in his language, but in her own. Sharp, broken sounds that carried fear. He could not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. Something, or someone, was coming. On the third night, Daniel could not rest. The strange hum from the forest had not returned, but the memory of it stayed in his mind. The girl slept lightly on the couch, waking at saw. The smallest noise. Each time she opened her glowing eyes, Daniel felt the same question rise inside him. What had he brought into his home? The night dragged on until at last, morning came. Daniel tried to act normal, cooking breakfast, reading the paper, pretending everything was ordinary. But the girl sensed his unease. She sat in silence, her gaze fixed on the window, as though waiting for something she already knew would happen. That evening, the knock came. It was sharp, deliberate, not the friendly tap of a neighbor, but the kind of knock that demanded attention. Daniel froze. The girl's body stiffened, her silver skin glowing faintly under the dim light. Her eyes widened, and she shook her head quickly, signaling for him not to open. But the knock came again, harder this time. Daniel's heart pounded, yet his curiosity won. He stepped carefully to the door, each footstep heavy as stone. When he opened it, he was not prepared for what he saw. Two tall women stood on his porch, and they were not human. Their skins shimmered with faint patterns like moving liquid metal. Their hair flowed long and dark, braided with threads of light that seemed alive. Their eyes glowed like stars, bright and commanding. They wore strange armor that hummed softly, plates that looked both elegant and deadly. For a second, Daniel could not breathe. They were beautiful and terrifying all at once. The taller of the two spoke, her voice deep yet clear. "Where is she?" Daniel blinked, unable to respond. The second woman stepped forward, her expression sharper. She repeated the words, slower this time. "Where is the child?" Behind him, the little girl let out a soft cry, a sound so small yet filled with terror. The women's eyes flicked past Daniel, straight to her. The girl hid behind the couch, trembling. Daniel raised his hand, trying to calm the situation. "Wait, who are you?" the HFY. The older woman's gaze shifted to him. She spoke with effort, as though learning each word. "We are her guardians, her people, her blood. You must give her to us. Blood, you must give her to us." Her words carried power, but Daniel saw the girl's reaction. She shook her head violently, pressing herself deeper into the shadows. If these women were protectors, why was the child so afraid? The second woman stepped closer, her armor glowing faintly. "You cannot keep her human. She does not belong here. She belongs with us." Daniel's breath quickened, his mind spinning. For 3 days he had cared for the girl. She had trusted him, touched his hand, looked to him for safety. Now in front of him stood two beings who claimed ownership, but their presence felt heavy, their voices edged with command rather than compassion. "Why is she afraid of you?" Daniel asked, his voice trembling. The women paused, exchanging a look. Then the taller one spoke. "She is young. She does not understand. But we are here to take her back before it is too late." "Too late for what?" Daniel pressed. The second woman's eyes narrowed, her voice low. "The hunters are close. They will find her. They will find all of you. Earth is not safe if she remains." Daniel's stomach sank, so the hum he had heard was not his imagination. There were others, hunters, enemies searching for the girl. If what they said was true, then danger was coming not only for her, but for the whole town. Still, something inside him refused to let go. The girl peeked from behind the couch, her glowing eyes filled with silent pleading. Her small hand reached toward him, shaking. One word formed on her lips, the only human word she had spoken so far. "Stay." The women grew impatient. The taller one stepped forward, her hand lifting as if to push Daniel aside, but Daniel stood his ground, surprising even himself. "You can't just take her," he said, his voice stronger now. "If you want me to believe you, then tell me everything. No half-truths." For the first time, the women hesitated. The SI now. Ira grew tense, silence pressing heavy between them. Then, far above, the night sky lit up, a streak of red fire cut across the stars, followed by a deep rumble that shook the ground. The girl gasped and clung to Daniel's leg, her fear raw and unhidden. The women turned quickly, scanning the sky with sharp, trained eyes. One whispered a word Daniel did not understand. The other spoke urgently. "They are here." Daniel's chest tightened. Whoever they were, it was clear the women feared them too. The taller woman looked back at him, her eyes fierce. "Human, if you want your world safe, you will give her to us now." But Daniel felt the girl's small fingers gripping his arm. Her fear was real, her trust in him was real, and Daniel realized he was standing in the center of something far bigger than himself. The ground shook again, louder this time. A shadow passed over the house, blotting out the moon. Daniel looked up through the window and saw it. A massive shape descending, silent and dark, not a plane, not anything made by human hands. It was a ship, alien and threatening, sliding through the clouds like a predator. The girl's eyes glowed brighter, and she whispered something in her own tongue. The two women raised their weapons, their armor alive with light. Daniel's home, his safe and ordinary life, was gone in that instant. The War of the Stars had arrived at his doorstep, and Daniel stood caught between them all, holding the fate of one lost child who might change everything. The massive ship hovered in the night sky, silent yet heavy, like a predator waiting to strike. Its shadow stretched across the town, swallowing streets and rooftops in darkness. Daniel stood frozen, the girl clutching his arm with trembling fingers. The two alien women lifted their weapons, their armor glowing brighter as if ready for battle. For a moment, no one spoke. The ship did not move closer, but its presence filled the air like thunder waiting to break. Then the taller woman turned sharply to Daniel, her voice urgent. "You see now, human. This is what follows her. This is what hunts her. Your world is not safe with her here." Daniel shook his head, his voice unsteady but defiant. "You say you protect her, but she's terrified of you. Why should I trust anything you say?" The second woman's eyes narrowed, a flicker of impatience in her glowing stare. "You do not understand. She is important. She carries something greater than herself. If the hunters take her, your earth will burn." The girl hid behind Daniel, shaking her head violently, her small hand gripping his shirt. Her glowing eyes begged him not to listen. Daniel felt torn in two voices pulling at him, both claiming truth, both demanding a choice. The taller woman lowered her weapon slightly, her tone softer now. "She is the last of her bloodline, the last of her kind. If she dies, her people die forever. You cannot keep her hidden. They will find her. They will destroy you to reach her." Daniel's chest tightened. He looked down at the girl, so small, so fragile, yet carrying a burden too big for any child. Her glowing eyes shimmered with fear, but also with something else, trust. She had trusted him since the night he carried her from the forest, and that trust weighed heavier than the women's words. "Why is she afraid of you?" Daniel asked again, louder this time. The women exchanged a look, their silence more dangerous than words. Finally, the second woman spoke, her voice sharp. "She is young, she remembers only shadows, but we are not her enemy. The real enemy is above your head." She pointed to the ship, which pulsed with red light like a heartbeat. At that moment, the ship made its first move. A beam of light stretched down from its underside, scanning the ground like a searching eye. It swept across rooftops, fields, and trees, coming closer to Daniel's small house. The girl gasped and pressed her hands against Damon. Her ears, her body trembling with panic. The women tensed, raising their weapons higher. Daniel's heart hammered as the beam crept nearer. "Listen to me, human," the taller woman said quickly. "If they find her, your planet is finished. If you want to protect her, then give her to us. We can keep her safe. We can keep you safe." But Daniel's instincts screamed something different. The girl pulled at his hand, whispering broken sounds in her own language. Though he could not understand the words, he understood the meaning. "Don't trust them." The scanning beam swept across Daniel's yard. The girl's skin glowed brighter in response, as though calling to the ship. Daniel pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, trying to shield her from the light. The women stepped forward, urgency flashing in their eyes. "Human, decide now. If you wait any longer, it will be too late." The beam faded suddenly, and the ship drifted higher into the clouds. But Daniel knew it was not leaving. It was only circling, waiting. The taller woman lowered her weapon again and spoke with heavy breath. "You have seen enough. You know the danger is real. Give her to us before the hunters land." Daniel's mind raced. He thought of the girl's silver skin glowing in the forest, her fear of every sound, her whisper of the word help. He thought of the dream she had placed in his mind, fire, ships, war, and now the warning of the two alien women. If he kept her, Earth would suffer. If he gave her up, maybe the danger would pass. But deep inside, his heart whispered that nothing was that simple. The girl looked up at him, her glowing eyes shimmering with tears. She pressed her small hand against his chest, right over his heart. A sudden image filled Daniel's mind. He saw her world, broken and burning, cities crumbling, skies filled with fire. He saw her people falling, hunted, erased, until only he remained, and he understood then, she was not just running for herself, she was running for her entire kind. Daniel stumbled back, gripping the chair for balance. The women watched him closely, their glowing eyes sharp with calculation. They knew he had seen something, but they did not ask. Instead, the second woman spoke in a cold voice. "You feel her memory, yes. Now you know why she must come with us. She carries the last hope of her kind. You cannot protect her. You are only human." Daniel clenched his fists. Only human, that was what they thought. But in that moment, Daniel felt a strange fire inside him. He was human, but that did not make him weak. It made him stubborn. It made him willing to fight for what he believed in. And right now, He believed the little girl needed him more than anyone else. Outside, the distant rumble of engines shook the night again. More ships were coming, heavier and louder than before. The hunters were not far. The women turned sharply, weapons ready, their armor blazing with light. The taller one shouted, "They are here! You must choose now, human!" Daniel looked at the girl, who clung to him with glowing eyes full of fear and trust. He looked at the women, powerful, commanding, but hiding something in their silence. And then he looked at the night sky, where the stars themselves seemed to vanish behind approaching shadows. His choice would decide not only the fate of the girl, but maybe the fate of Earth. And the warning had been given, the hunters had arrived, and the war was about to begin. The ground trembled as the sky filled with sound. Engines roared above the clouds, deep and heavy like thunder rolling across the earth. Daniel's small house shook, glasses rattled on the shelves, and the girl clung tighter to his arm. Her glowing eyes flickered with panic, the silver lines on her skin shining brighter with every rumble. The two alien women moved quickly to the window, their armor alive with streams of light. They spoke to each other in a fast, sharp language Daniel could not understand. Their weapons hummed, charged with strange power. The taller woman turned back to him, her voice fierce. "The hunters have found this place. We must leave now. Give her to us, human. We will protect her." But Daniel shook his head, his chest tight with fear and determination. "No," he said firmly. "She doesn't want to go with you. She's terrified of you. How can I trust you?" The shorter woman's eyes burned, her voice sharp. "You are foolish. You will doom your planet with your pride. You cannot fight them, not alone." Daniel stood between them and the girl, his body shaking but his voice steady. "Then tell me the truth. What do they want from her? Why risk coming all the way here?" The women hesitated, their glowing eyes narrowing. Finally, the taller one said, "They want what is inside her, something hidden even from her, a power that can end worlds." The words struck Daniel like ice. He looked down at the girl, so small, so fragile, holding his hand with trembling fingers. Could it be true? Could she carry such a terrible secret? The girl looked up at him with glowing eyes filled with fear, and he knew she had heard every word. She shook her head again, whispering a broken sound, her voice soft but urgent. Daniel could not understand the language, yet he felt the meaning in his chest. "Don't let them take me." Before Daniel could answer, the night exploded. A blast of red light struck the ground outside, shaking the walls. The roof groaned as dirt and sparks showered over the yard. Daniel ran to the window and saw them. Dark ships descending, smaller than the massive one in the clouds, but sharp, insect-like, hunting machines. Their wings buzzed with energy, their eyes glowing red. They spread out across the fields, scanning every corner with beams of light. The girl cried out, pressing her hands to her ears, her silver glow rising like a shield. The women snapped into action, their armor flaring with blue light. They raised their weapons, beams of energy blasting through the night. Two of the hunter ships staggered, smoking, then spun out of control, crashing into the forest. But more ships came, circling like predators, their beams sweeping closer to the house. Daniel's body froze with fear, but then the girl clutched his chest, her glowing eyes locking onto his. Suddenly, his mind filled with images. Not dreams this time, but visions forced into his thoughts. He saw fire raining from the sky, whole cities burning, humans running in terror. He saw the hunters tearing through the earth, searching for her, destroying anything in their path. The vision ended as quickly as it came, leaving Daniel gasping. The girl collapsed into his arms, drained and trembling. The taller woman's voice cut through the chaos. "You see now, human? You see what she brings? You cannot protect her from this. Only we can." But Daniel's heart burned with anger. "You're wrong," he shouted. "She's not the danger they are." The shorter woman snapped back. "If she stays here, they will destroy everything. She must come with us, or Earth will fall." Daniel's mind spun, caught between fear and fury. He wanted to believe the women, but the girl's eyes told him more than their words ever could. She trusted him, not them. And Daniel realized something. Maybe they died. I'd not want to save her. Maybe they wanted the power inside her just as much as the hunters did. The house shook again as a hunter ship fired on the yard, blasting dirt and wood into the air. Daniel grabbed the girl and pulled her toward the back room. The alien women moved to cover them, firing blasts of light into the night sky. The hunters screeched, their metal wings folding and opening like knives. The battle raged outside, but Daniel knew it was only the beginning. As he held the girl close, her small hand pressed against his chest again. Another vision filled his mind. This one of himself, standing not as a bystander but as a fighter, holding a weapon of light, standing between her and the darkness. Daniel's breath caught, his heart racing. The girl whispered one word, soft but clear in human tongue. "Help." The word struck him deeper than any vision. She was asking not for warriors in glowing armor, not for alien guardians, but for him. Daniel, a man with no power, no weapons, no knowledge of the stars, and yet in her eyes he saw belief that he was enough. The women shouted again, demanding he hand her over, their voices sharp with urgency. The hunters screamed above the house, their red beams cutting through the night. The town was waking now, neighbors stepping outside in confusion, pointing at the sky. Panic was spreading, and Daniel knew the world was about to change forever. He tightened his grip on the girl, his eyes hard with resolve. If the hunters wanted her, they would have to go through him. If the women wanted her, they would have to earn his trust. He was no soldier, no warrior, but he was human, and he would not let her face this alone. Outside, the largest of the hunter ships descended, its shadow covering the entire street. The ground split as its massive legs dug into the soil. Its red eyes glowed, scanning the house, locking on Daniel's door. The air vibrated with the weight of war, and Daniel realized the fight was no longer coming. The fight was already here. The night shook with the roar of engines. The largest hunter ship stood above the house like a dark mountain, its red eyes glowing as beams of light cut across the ground. The smaller ships circled, screeching in metallic tones, while the alien women fired blast after blast from their glowing weapons. The yard lit up in flashes of blue and red, the battle of two alien powers spilling into Daniel's quiet life. Inside the house, Daniel held the little girl close. Her silver skin shimmered like moonlight, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Every tremor from outside shook her small body, but she refused to let go of his shirt. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest, not just from fear, but from the weight of the decision pressing down on him. The taller woman burst back into the house, her armor scorched from battle. She shouted over the noise, "Human, you must choose. Give her to us, or Earth will be destroyed. We cannot hold them back alone." The shorter woman followed, her weapon glowing fiercely, her voice sharp with anger. "She is not safe here. She is not safe with you. You are only delaying the end. Hand her over now." Daniel stood his ground, his arms wrapped around the girl. He shouted back, "If you are her protectors, why is she so afraid of you? Why does she beg me to keep her safe?" The women exchanged a tense look, their silence louder than their words. Finally, the taller one said, "She does not understand. She carries power inside her, power that can destroy entire worlds if it falls into the wrong hands. We are the only ones who can control it." The girl shook her head violently, clutching Daniel's chest, her glowing eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling as she whispered, "No, no." Daniel felt her fear deep inside him, as though her emotions were echoing in his own heart. He realized then that the women were not lying about the power inside her. But they were not telling the full truth either. A blast shook the walls, windows shattered, and smoke filled the room. Daniel coughed, covering the girl as dust and debris fell around them. Through the haze, he saw the hunters approaching outside, dozens of them, their red eyes fixed on the house. The women shouted, firing their weapons, beams slicing the night sky, but for every hunter that fell, more descended. The battle was endless, and Daniel knew the hunters would not stop until they had the girl. His mind raced, torn in two. If he gave her to the women, maybe the hunters would follow them away from Earth. Maybe the town would survive. But if he handed her over, what would they do to her? Would they protect her, or use her, control her, take the last of her kind and turn her into a weapon? If he kept her, the hunters would bring destruction, not just to his home, but to the whole planet. Either choice seemed like death waiting at the door. The girl's small hand pressed against his chest again. Suddenly, another vision filled his mind. He saw Earth burning, yes, but he also saw something else. He saw her standing tall, no longer a frightened child, but a figure of light, her silver skin blazing as she faced the hunters. He saw himself beside her, holding a weapon of glowing energy, standing against the darkness. The vision vanished, leaving him gasping for air. The girl whispered one word, her voice trembling yet clear. "Help!" Daniel's heart shook. She was not asking him to be a hero. She was asking him to believe in her. She was not only a burden, she was a survivor, carrying the last hope of her people. And maybe, just maybe, she was also the key to stopping the hunters. But if he gave her away, that hope would vanish forever. The taller woman stepped closer, her weapon lowered, her voice calm. "Human, you cannot fight this war. You do not understand what you are risking. Hand her over, and we promise she will be safe." Daniel looked into her glowing eyes and saw not kindness, but calculation. He turned his gaze back to the girl and saw only trust, raw and unshaken. His answer formed in that moment, clear and heavy. "No," Daniel said, his voice strong. "She stays with me." The women froze, their eyes widening with shock and fury. "You do not know what you have done," the shorter one hissed. Daniel tightened his hold on the girl, his own fear burning into defiance. "Maybe not, but I know one thing. She trusts me, and I won't betray that." Outside, the hunter ship roared, its red beams focusing on the house. The ground split as another blast shook the earth. Daniel stumbled but held the girl tightly. The women raised their weapons again, shouting in their strange language as the hunters closed in. The town was fully awake now, people screaming, cars fleeing, the night filled with chaos. But inside the broken house, Daniel felt a strange calm settle in. His choice had been made, and there was no turning back. He was only human, but he would fight with everything he had. The girl pressed her forehead against his chest, her silver glow wrapping around them both like a shield. For the first time, Daniel felt the light spread through him, filling his body with strength. He was no longer just protecting her, he was becoming part of her fight. The women stared at him in disbelief as the glow spread brighter. The hunters screamed, descending fast, their weapons ready to strike. The ground shook once more, the house shattering around them. Daniel tightened his grip, his voice steady as he whispered to the girl, "I'll protect you." And then the night erupted in fire as the hunters landed at last. The night sky burned red as the hunters descended. Their ships circled like vultures, beams of light cutting through smoke and fire. The ground shook with every blast, pieces of Daniel's small house collapsing around him. He shielded the little girl with his body, the silver glow from her skin spreading across them like a fragile shield. The two alien women fought with fierce power, their armor alive with blue fire. The armored figure stepped forward, its voice a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate the air itself. "Give me the child," it said, speaking perfect English, its tone cold and certain. "She belongs to us, and if you resist, your world will burn with her." Daniel's body trembled, but he stepped in front of the girl, his voice cracked but firm. "You'll have to go through me first." The figure tilted its head, almost amused. "You are nothing, human. Do you think you can stand against us?" The girl suddenly screamed, her silver glow blazing like a star. The force of it pushed the hunters back, their red beams scattering into the night. The armored figure staggered for a moment, its mask sparking with red light. Daniel felt the energy wrap around him too, flowing into his chest, his arms, his bones. His skin burned with heat but also with strength. For a moment he felt more than human. The alien women gasped, their eyes wide. The taller one whispered, "Impossible. She has bonded with him." Daniel did not understand, but he did not have time to ask. The armored figure roared and charged, its weapon glowing red like fire. Daniel lifted his arm instinctively, and to his shock, a blade of silver light formed in his hand. The girl's glow had become his weapon. The clash shook the ground, silver against red, sparks exploding as the two forces met. Daniel staggered under the weight of the alien's strength, but he did not fall. The girl's glow surged brighter, feeding him with every strike. The alien women fought the hunters around them, their blue blasts lighting up the chaos. But Daniel faced the commander alone. The fight raged across the yard, each strike echoing like thunder. The armored figure laughed darkly. "You think you can save her? You will only share her fate." Daniel gritted his teeth, pushing back with everything inside him. "She's not yours, and neither is my woe." The final strike came like lightning. Daniel drove the silver blade forward, piercing the commander's chest. The figure let out a roar that shook the night, its armor cracking, its red glow fading. With one last shriek, it collapsed, shattering into sparks that scattered into the wind. The hunters above screamed in unison, their red eyes dimming, their ships pulling back into the sky. One by one, they vanished into the clouds, leaving silence behind. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping for air, the silver blade fading from his hand. The girl knelt beside him, her glowing eyes filled with relief and sorrow. She whispered softly, "Thank you." The alien women approached slowly, their weapons lowered, their glowing armor dimmed. The taller one looked at Daniel with a strange respect. "You have chosen your path, human, and now you cannot turn back." Daniel struggled to his feet, still holding the girl. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The shorter woman's eyes burned. "Now the hunters know you. They will not stop. You and the child are bound. Your fight has only begun." Daniel looked out at his broken yard, the ruined house, the fleeing townsfolk. His old life was gone, burned away in a single night. But as he looked at the girl's glowing eyes filled with trust, he felt no regret. He had made his choice, and now he would face whatever came. Above them, the clouds parted, revealing the stars. For a moment, the night was calm, but Daniel knew it was only the beginning. He had taken in one lost child, and now the fate of Earth rested in his hands.